Hi, welcome to Enviro Time. This is the show where we discuss environmental issues. I'm your host, Larry Walker. Welcome to the show. If you're not familiar with the show, Enviro Time, we discuss different environmental issues such as asbestos, lead, mold contamination, and we interview guests to get their perspectives on what they do. Today we're going to interview John Miller from Miller Law. He's going to discuss the types of litigation he does and how we get there. So let me introduce to you John Miller. John, why don't you tell us a little bit about your company and yourself?
Sure. My law firm is Miller Law Incorporated. I'm the founding principal of that company. I have been practicing as an attorney for 22 years, graduate of UCLA undergraduate and Loyola Law School in Los Angeles. And initially in my career, I was a defense lawyer, defending the very type of cases that I currently represent plaintiffs or injured people on. And we focus primarily on water damage and mold related cases, and we also do other types of personal injury cases as well. And that's been my main practice on the plaintiff side, representing injured people for the past 12 years.
Excellent. Now, how do you get involved with a water damage or a mold claim?
Sure. Currently, our office probably gets an estimated 40 to 60 telephone calls per week from potential new clients. And so people call us from a number of settings in which a mold or water damage claim can arise. They can arise in a landlord-tenant setting where you have a tenant who is renting, whether it's an apartment or a townhouse or a single-family home, and they have water damage issues. They come in from a construction defect type of case where they're not renters but they're owners of new construction and they have problems with water damage which may lead to mold. They also can come into play in insurance bad faith cases where you have a home with a water or mold loss and your insurance company doesn't pay for those losses. And the final of the four primary types of cases in which we see water damage and mold would be a real estate non-disclosure case where people buy houses and there are undisclosed defects involving water damage and mold.
Now, how many cases would you typically have going on at one particular point in time?
Anywhere between 60 and 120.
How long would a typical case take to from start to finish?
Well, it depends. We try to negotiate a settlement early on in the case. If you're forced to file a lawsuit because the settlement isn't coming through as you desired, it's typically 12 months by statute, by California statute, until you're supposed to get a courtroom. But unfortunately, in the local or surrounding counties of Sacramento, Placer, El Dorado, the courthouses are very crowded. And so you may not get a courtroom within that 12-month period of time. It could be as long as 24 months.
So it could take quite a while.
It could take quite a while, correct.
So do you work specifically here in the Sacramento area, or do you work in all of Northern California?
We actually work throughout the state of California.
Oh, do you?
There are 58 counties, judicial counties in the state of California, and we have cases pretty much in all of them. A lot of cases in the Bay Area, quite a few cases in Southern California, whether it's Los Angeles or San Diego. We have pretty much a nationwide reputation in handling these types of cases, and so we get calls from all over the state as well.
Oh, excellent. Now, once a client's hired you, what's the process? Do you guys investigate the particular house or the bad faith? How does that work?
Sure. Once we get a telephone call in, we'll usually call the client back or potential client back and ask them a series of questions about how they understood the loss to have occurred, whether or not they've had mold testing accomplished, whether or not they have any physical symptoms associated with the excessive moisture or mold in the structure that they're living in. And sometimes they already have mold testing, for example. Other times they don't. But the critical piece of evidence in a water damage or mold case is obviously the mold testing. Without that baseline information, you really can't proceed effectively to try to help these people recover what type of damages they may be entitled to.
Now, when you've got a house that has a water intrusion problem, how do you determine if it's a a leaky pipe, a builder defect, or some other problem?
Sure. I'll give you an example. Like in a new construction situation, we may have somebody call into our office and say that they were rearranging their furniture a year after they purchased the property, and they're removing their child's bed in the bedroom, and they moved the bed and they noticed a piece of sheetrock behind the area where the bed was located with significant staining and mold on it. We would then hire an investigator. Oftentimes it can be the person who does the mold testing. Sometimes it's somebody else who may be more specialized with respect to water intrusion investigations. And we determine, is it an exterior wall that mold is appearing on? And if so, what's on the other side? Is there a flashing issue with the window? Is it a stucco issue? Is it a plumbing issue because there might be plumbing running through that wall? So we do an investigation. If it involves opening up sheetrock, we probably would get experts involved in remediation because you may need to set up mini containments in the area that you open so you avoid opening a wall cavity with potential mold inside the wall and releasing that mold into the structure. So you have to have the right experts investigate. That would really be a cause and source investigation. What's the cause and source of the moisture that has caused the mold to develop?
Now, typically, how long does that take, and what happens to the people in the house during that time?
Well, during the investigation, as long as it's a relatively limited investigation, and as long as some type of containment is set up with some type of plastic or barrier devices in which the workers can actually remove the sheetrock, the occupants of the home can remain in the house. If it's determined, for example, that issue with water intrusion is the entire south wall of the house because of a stucco issue, or the entire south wall of an apartment because of a stucco or an exterior siding issue, and remediation is necessary where you have to actually go in and remove the mold physically and also address the source of the intrusion, you may have to have the occupants move out completely.
So once you get into the investigation phase and you've determined what goes on, how do you proceed from there? Do you guys go to trial before any repairs can happen, or?
Typically what we try to do, again, the only reason typically a law firm would file a lawsuit is because, number one, if they're not getting anywhere in their settlement negotiations, or number two, you may be forced to file a lawsuit because there's statute of limitations which apply, which tell you as a lawyer the last day upon which you must file a lawsuit. And so, for example, in a personal injury claim involving mold, you have 2 years from the date of the injury to file your lawsuit. In a property damage case involving mold, you have 3 years from the date of the property damage to file your lawsuit. So if somebody comes to us early on, we have the luxury of time to try to negotiate a settlement. Oftentimes, though, people may not come to us until it's pretty close to the statute because maybe they tried to settle the case themselves, and we're forced to file quickly. Once you file the lawsuit, it's served, and the defendants respond to that in what's called an answer to the complaint. The complaint's the legal document that you file with the court to initiate the lawsuit. And settlement efforts still continue throughout the case, and oftentimes when they see that you filed a lawsuit, they may think you're more serious, so it may settle after just merely filing the lawsuit.
How often do you settle as opposed to actually going to trial?
Generally, I think in all aspects of litigation, no matter what type of case it is, 99.5% of the cases settle. It really depends on the clients and the defendants, two things that the plaintiff's lawyer really has no control over. If you have a $10,000 case and the client wants $1 million, that case is not going to settle, it'll go to trial. If you have a $10,000 case and the defendants offer you $2,000 and it's not accepted by your client, that case is going to trial. Our firm tends to try a lot of cases, whether it's our clients being unreasonable or the defense being unreasonable. But that's kind of what we enjoy doing, and that's kind of what our reputation is.
Now, a number of years ago, there was a lot of problems with builder defects. Is that still a big problem?
It is. It was more readily evident a few years ago just because of the building boom, but those houses that were mass produced at that time still exist, and as time goes by, additional defects or more defects are being discovered. But the building boom caused houses to be built quickly, leading to shoddy workmanship in a lot of situations.
Now, how do you select your experts? If you're working all over the state, you must have experts all over the world here.
Yeah, we do. I mean, we have a select group of experts for Northern California cases and Southern California cases. Fortunately, our Northern California experts cover a wide range of area, up to Redding, over to the San Francisco Bay Area, and maybe down to Fresno. And then our Southern